If you believe that reading Laura Ingalls Wilder's famous book Little House on the Prairie can fully understand her life, you are wrong. Although that book draws on Laura's intimate memories of the settler and pioneer period of the 1880s, it is not the entirety of her life. From a negative perspective, Laura's life can be understood as a fish living in a muddy puddle, and those bad memories stuck with her until the end of her life. To know more about Laura's tragic life, watch this video until the end. Laura was the second child in a family of 5 children. She had an older sister, Mary Amelia, and was later joined by 3 more siblings, Caroline Celestia, Carrie, Charles Frederick, who tragically died in infancy, and Grace Pearl. The birthplace of Laura Ingalls Wilder is celebrated today with a replica log cabin at the Little House Wayside in Pepin, a testament to her enduring legacy. Delving into her ancestry, Laura Ingalls was a descendant of the Delano family, which notably includes U.S. President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. This connection highlights the rich historical roots of her family. Furthermore, one of her paternal ancestors, Edmund Ingalls, originally from Skirbeck, Lincolnshire, England, was an early settler in America, establishing himself in Lynn, Massachusetts. This ancestral line ties Laura to the Mayflower passenger Richard Warren, as she was his 7th great-granddaughter. Adding to her remarkable family connections, Laura Ingalls Wilder was also related to U.S. President and Civil War General Ulysses S. Grant, being his 3rd cousin once removed. These connections not only underscore the historical significance of her family, but also situate Laura in a broader context of American history, linking her life to key figures and events in the nation's past. At the tender age of 2, Laura Ingalls Wilder embarked on a significant journey with her family, a journey that would later become a pivotal part of her literary works. In 1869, the Ingalls family left their home in Wisconsin, and after a brief stop in Rothville, Missouri, ventured into the Indian country of Kansas, near what is now known as Independence, Kansas. It was in this new setting that Laura's younger sister, Carrie, was born in August 1870, marking yet another change in the family's dynamic. The move to Kansas was fraught with complications and uncertainty. Charles Ingalls, Laura's father, had been under the impression that the area would be open to white settlers. However, upon their arrival, they faced a starkly different reality. The land they had chosen for their homestead was actually part of the Osage Indian Reservation, and thus, the Ingalls family had no legal right to occupy it. Despite this, they began farming, hopeful for a new start. However, their time in Kansas was short-lived. By the spring of 1871, amid circulating rumors that settlers would be evicted from the reservation lands, the Ingalls family decided to leave. In her novel, Little House on the Prairie, and her memoir, Pioneer Girl, Laura Ingalls Wilder depicted their departure as being mainly driven by the threat of eviction. Nonetheless, she also acknowledged another pressing reason for their move, the need to reclaim their land in Wisconsin, as the buyer had failed to pay the mortgage. After their brief and tumultuous stay in Kansas, the Ingalls family returned to Wisconsin, a move that marked a period of relative stability and routine in their lives. They resided there for the next 3 years, a time that significantly influenced Laura Ingalls Wilder's future novels. The experiences and memories from this period in Wisconsin served as the foundational backdrop for Wilder's first novel, Little House in the Big Woods, published in 1932. This book vividly portrays the daily life, challenges, and joys of living in the dense forests of Wisconsin. Additionally, the beginning of her next novel, Little House on the Prairie, 1935, also draws upon this period, likely capturing the family's experiences both before and during their move to Kansas. In 1939, Wilder published On the Banks of Plum Creek, the 3rd volume of her autobiographical series. This book details another significant move of the Ingalls family, which occurred around 1874. Leaving Kansas behind, they ventured to an area near Walnut Grove, Minnesota. Here, they settled in a unique home, a dugout on the banks of Plum Creek. This setting is particularly notable for its depiction of the family's resilience and adaptability, as they carved out a life in a modest, partially underground home on the Minnesota Prairie. When Laura Ingalls was about 7 years old, her family embarked on another significant move, this time leaving Wisconsin for Walnut Grove, Minnesota. However, before settling in Walnut Grove, the Ingalls family spent a brief period living with Laura's uncle, Peter Ingalls. Initially, they stayed with him in Wisconsin, and then on rented land near Lake City, Minnesota. This phase of their journey provided a transient but important chapter in Laura's early life experiences. Upon their arrival in Walnut Grove, the Ingalls family established themselves in a modest dugout sod house. This type of dwelling, common among pioneers, was partially built into the earth and offered basic shelter against the harsh elements of the frontier. The family spent their first winter in this dugout house, which stood on a preemption claim, a type of claim that allowed settlers to earn ownership of land by living on it and improving it. After surviving the winter, the Ingalls family constructed a new house on the same land, marking a small step toward stability and permanence in their nomadic life. However, their time in Walnut Grove was marred by agricultural hardship. 2 consecutive summers of crop failures, a common plight for pioneer farmers, compelled the family to move once again, this time to Iowa. En route to Iowa, the Ingalls family stayed with Laura's uncle, Peter Ingalls again, now residing on his farm near South Troy, Minnesota. It was during this stay that Laura's brother, Charles Frederick Ingalls, Freddie, was born on November 1st, 1875. Tragically, Freddie's life was short-lived. He passed away 9 months later in August 1876, adding a somber chapter to the family's history. Eventually, the Ingalls family reached Burr Oak, Iowa, where they assisted in running a hotel. This new venture marked a departure from their usual farming lifestyle. It was in Burr Oak that Grace, the youngest of the Ingalls children, was born on May 23, 1877. After their time in Burr Oak, Iowa, the Ingalls family once again uprooted and moved back to Walnut Grove, Minnesota. This return marked a new chapter in their lives, with Charles Ingalls, Laura's father, taking on multiple roles in the community. He served as the town butcher, a profession that played a crucial role in small pioneer towns, providing an essential service to the community. Additionally, he held the position of Justice of the Peace, a role that involved mediating disputes and maintaining order, further underscoring his involvement and standing in the community. The family's life in Walnut Grove, however, was not to last long. In the spring of 1879, Charles Ingalls accepted a job with the railroad, a common and growing industry in the late 19th century United States, especially in the expanding West. This job took him to the eastern part of the Dakota Territory, a vast and sparsely populated area that promised new opportunities and challenges. That fall, the rest of the Ingalls family joined Charles in the Dakota Territory, signaling another significant relocation. The move to the Dakota Territory represented not just a physical journey, but also a shift to a different way of life, one closely tied to the development and expansion of the American frontier. Laura Ingalls Wilder, in her later writings, chose to omit the period from 1876 to 1877, when the family lived near Burr Oak. Instead, she moved directly to their experiences in the Dakota Territory in her book By the Shores of Silver Lake, published in 1939. This book captures the family's life during this period, showcasing their experiences and adventures in a new and challenging environment. The winter of 1879-1880 marked a significant milestone for the Ingalls family, particularly for Charles Ingalls, Laura's father. During this time, he filed for a formal homestead, a common practice in the United States during this period that allowed settlers to acquire land by living on and improving it. This action symbolized the family's intention to establish a permanent home in the area. Smet, located in what is now South Dakota, became a central and enduring location for the Ingalls family. It was here that Laura's parents and her blind sister Mary would spend the remainder of their lives. The initial winter in Smet was relatively mild, and the family resided in a surveyor's house. This period was a time of observation and anticipation for them as they witnessed the birth of the town of Smet, which seemed to emerge from the Prairie in 1880. However, the following winter of 1880-1881 presented starkly different challenges. It was one of the harshest winters on record in the Dakotas, and its severity left a lasting impression on Laura. She vividly recounted this experience in her novel, The Long Winter, published in 1940. This book captures the struggles and resilience of the Ingalls family and the broader community during this extraordinarily difficult time. Once settled in Smet, Laura Ingalls' life entered a phase of relative stability and growth. She attended school, balancing her education with several part-time jobs. This period was also significant for her social life. She made friends and became an integral part of the community. Among these new acquaintances was Almanzo Wilder, a bachelor homesteader who would later become an important figure in her life. Laura's experiences during this time in Smet are documented in her books Little Town on the Prairie, 1941, and These Happy Golden Years, 1943. These novels, part of her celebrated Little House series, provide detailed accounts of her life as a young woman, exploring themes of community, hard work, education, and the beginnings of her relationship with Almanzo Wilder. Laura Ingalls. Wilder's early foray into the world of teaching marked a significant chapter in her life, reflecting not only her personal ambition but also the socio-economic realities of the late 19th century. On December 10, 1882, just 2 months shy of her 16th birthday, Laura accepted her first teaching position. This early start in her career highlights her maturity and sense of responsibility, as well as the demand for educators in the expanding American frontier. Laura taught for 3 terms in one-room schools, a common setting for education in rural areas during that era. These schools were unique environments where a single teacher would instruct students of various ages and grades in a solitary classroom. This experience was a considerable challenge, especially for a young teacher like Laura, who was balancing her teaching responsibilities with her own education in Smet. In her book, Little Town on the Prairie, Laura received her first teaching certificate on December 24, 1882. However, this date was adjusted for dramatic effect in her writing. Her original 3rd-grade teaching certificate is a tangible piece of history, preserved and displayed in William Anderson's book, Laura's Album, 1998, offering a glimpse into her early professional life. Despite her success in securing teaching positions, Laura later admitted that she did not particularly enjoy teaching. Her decision to teach was driven by a sense of duty to contribute financially to her family. During this period, wage-earning opportunities for women were limited, and teaching was one of the few respectable professions available to women seeking employment. Between 1883 and 1885, Laura's life was a mix of work and education. She taught 3 terms of school, worked for the local dressmaker, and attended high school. Despite her dedication and hard work, she did not graduate from high school. According to her books, this was due to her 3rd and final teaching job commencing before she could complete her schooling. Laura Ingalls. Wilder's teaching career and formal studies concluded with a significant milestone in her personal life, her marriage to Almanzo Wilder. On August 25, 1885, in Smet, South Dakota, Laura and Almanzo were united in marriage, beginning a new chapter together. Their relationship was characterized by affection and personal endearments. Laura called Almanzo Manly, while he affectionately referred to her as Bess, a nickname derived from her middle name, Elizabeth. This use of nicknames also served a practical purpose, helping to distinguish Laura from Almanzo's sister, who was also named Laura. At the time of their marriage, Almanzo had established a certain level of prosperity through his homestead claim. Homesteading, A key aspect of the American frontier experience involved claiming land and making it productive. Almanzo's success in this endeavor provided a foundation for their new life together. The couple started their married life in a new home situated north of Smet, symbolizing both their commitment to each other and their shared future. The early years of Laura and Almanzo's marriage were marked by both joy and sorrow. On December 5, 1886, Laura gave birth to their daughter, Rose, who would later become an accomplished writer herself and play a significant role in the publication and promotion of Laura's writings. Tragically, in 1889, the couple faced profound grief with the birth of a son who passed away just 12 days after his birth. The infant son, who remained unnamed, was buried in Smet, Kingsbury County, South Dakota. On his grave marker, he is remembered simply as baby son of A.J. Wilder. The first few years of Laura and Almanzo Wilder's marriage were marked by a series of challenging and often tragic events, testing their resilience and fortitude. In 1888, Almanzo suffered a severe bout of diphtheria, a serious bacterial infection that was life-threatening and quite prevalent in the 19th century. This illness left him partially paralyzed, and although he eventually regained nearly full use of his legs, he would require a cane to walk for the rest of his life. This physical setback was a significant blow to the couple, particularly in the context of their life on a farm where physical labor was crucial. Their struggles were compounded by a succession of misfortunes. These included the heartbreaking loss of their newborn son and the destruction of their barn, along with its contents of hay and grain, in a mysterious fire. Further, their home was completely lost to a fire, which was accidentally set by their daughter, Rose. Additionally, the Wilders faced several years of severe drought, a devastating challenge for those dependent on farming for their livelihood. This period of drought left them in considerable debt, physically unwell, and unable to sustain themselves from their 320 acres of prairie land. Laura Ingalls Wilder documented these trials in her book, The First 4 Years, which was published posthumously in 1971. This book offers a candid and poignant look at the hardships faced by the Wilders during the early years of their marriage, reflecting the often harsh realities of life on the American frontier. Around 1890, seeking a respite from these difficulties, the Wilders left Smet and spent about a year at the home of Almanzo's parents on their farm in Spring Valley, Minnesota. This period was likely a time for recovery and reflection. However, still in pursuit of better health and living conditions, they moved briefly to Westville, Florida. The Wilders hoped that the change in climate might be beneficial for Almanzo's health. Yet, the humid environment in Florida proved to be a stark contrast to the dry plains they were accustomed to, and they felt out of place among the locals. These factors, combined with the challenging weather, led the Wilders to return to Smet in 1892. There, they purchased a small home, seeking to rebuild their lives in a familiar environment. In 1894, seeking a new start, Laura and Almanzo Wilder moved to Mansfield, Missouri. With their savings, they made a down payment on an undeveloped piece of land just outside the town. They named their new property Rocky Ridge Farm, a name that perhaps reflected its rugged terrain. The initial dwelling on this land was a modest, ramshackle log cabin, far from the comforts of a well-established home. The early years at Rocky Ridge Farm were marked by financial struggle and hard work. The Wilders' primary source of income initially came from selling wagon loads of firewood in town, fetching only 50 cents per load. This period was a testament to their perseverance and determination in the face of economic hardship. Financial stability did not come easily or quickly for the Wilders. One significant challenge was the apple trees they planted, which took 7 years to bear fruit. This delay is illustrative of the patience and long-term vision required in farming, where investments do not yield immediate returns. A turning point in their fortunes came when Almanzo's parents visited and gave them the deed to the house they had been renting in Mansfield. This gesture provided the Wilders with an economic boost, enabling them to further develop their property outside of town. Over time, they expanded their land holdings to nearly 200 acres, 80.9 hectares, a significant increase from their initial plot. By around 1910, the Wilders' situation had improved considerably. They sold the house in town and moved back to Rocky Ridge Farm permanently. They used the proceeds from the sale to complete the farmhouse on their property. This move marked a transition from their humble beginnings to a more stable and prosperous life. Over the course of 20 years, what started as about 40 acres, 16.2 hectares, of wooded, rocky land with a simple log cabin transformed into a successful poultry, dairy, and fruit farm, complete with a 10-room farmhouse. At Rocky Ridge Farm, Laura and Ingalls Wilder applied the valuable lessons they had learned from their previous experiences, especially their time in Smet. One of the critical insights they gained was the importance of diversifying their agricultural activities. As a result, they transformed Rocky Ridge Farm into a multifaceted enterprise that included poultry farming, a dairy operation, and the cultivation of a large apple orchard. The inclusion of poultry farming was a strategic decision, as it allowed the Wilders to not only produce eggs and meat for their own consumption, but also to generate a valuable source of income. Raising poultry was well suited to the small-scale farming model of the time and provided a reliable source of revenue for the family. Additionally, the Wilders established a dairy farm, which involved the production of milk and dairy products. Dairy farming was another avenue for income generation and self-sufficiency. It also required regular and disciplined work to ensure the health and productivity of the dairy cows. One of the notable features of Rocky Ridge Farm was its large apple orchard. The cultivation of apples represented a long-term investment, as apple trees typically take several years to mature and bear fruit. However, once established, the orchard provided a consistent source of income through the sale of apples and apple-related products. Laura Ingalls Wilder's involvement in various clubs and farm associations demonstrated her commitment to rural living and her desire to engage with her local community. She actively participated in these organizations, contributing her knowledge and experience to benefit the agricultural community in the region. Laura's expertise in poultry farming and rural living earned her recognition as an authority in these fields. Her reputation extended beyond her immediate community, leading to invitations to speak to groups and organizations across the region. Her presentations and insights were valuable resources for those seeking to improve their farming practices and rural lifestyles. After Rose Wilder Lane's departure from Rocky Ridge Farm, Laura and Ingalls Wilder made the decision to move back into the farmhouse they had built earlier. This farmhouse had most recently been occupied by friends, reflecting the evolving dynamics of the property. From 1935 onward, Laura and Ingalls found themselves alone at Rocky Ridge Farm, marking a new phase in their lives. Over time, the Wilders made some changes to their property. Much of the surrounding land, including the property with the stone cottage that Lane had built for them, was sold. However, they still maintained some farm animals and continued to tend to their flower beds and vegetable gardens. This connection to farming and gardening was deeply rooted in their way of life and remained an integral part of their daily routines. Laura's status as the beloved Laura of the Little House books had a profound impact on their lives during this period. Almost daily, carloads of fans would stop by Rocky Ridge Farm, eager to meet the author whose stories had captured their hearts. The Wilders' home became a place of pilgrimage for readers of all ages who were inspired by Laura's writings and wanted to connect with the real-life Laura Ingalls Wilder. Financially, Laura and Ingalls lived independently and without worries until Ingalls' passing in 1949. His death marked a significant moment of change in Laura's life. However, Laura chose to remain on the farm, demonstrating her strong attachment to the place and her determination to continue living there. For the next 8 years, Laura lived alone at Rocky Ridge Farm, but she was not without support. She was looked after by a circle of neighbors and friends who helped ensure her well-being and comfort. Despite the physical solitude, Laura remained socially engaged through her active correspondence with editors, fans, and friends. This period of her life was characterized by a sense of independence, resilience, and a continued connection to her readers and the wider world through her written communication. In the autumn of 1956, Laura Ingalls Wilder, at the age of 89, experienced a severe decline in her health. Her condition was compounded by undiagnosed diabetes and cardiac issues, which had taken a toll on her well-being. It was during this challenging period that her daughter, Rose Wilder Lane, arrived at Rocky Ridge Farm for Thanksgiving. Recognizing the severity of her mother's condition, Rose took immediate action and had Laura hospitalized. Fortunately, Laura's health improved during her hospital stay, and she was able to return home on the day after Christmas. However, her recovery was short-lived, and her condition continued to deteriorate after her release from the hospital. Tragically, Laura Ingalls Wilder passed away at home in her sleep on February 10, 1957, just 3 days after celebrating her 90th birthday. Her passing marked the end of an era and the conclusion of a remarkable life journey that had encompassed the American frontier, pioneering, writing, and inspiring generations of readers. Laura's final resting place is alongside her beloved husband, Almanzo Wilder, at Mansfield Cemetery in Mansfield, Missouri. This cemetery is a fitting location for the couple's eternal rest, as Mansfield had been their home for many years and the place where they had established Rocky Ridge Farm. It is worth noting that Rose Wilder Lane, Laura's daughter, and a prominent writer in her own right, was buried next to her parents upon her death in 1968. This familial connection in the afterlife reflects the strong bonds and shared experiences of the Wilder family, whose legacy continues to resonate through the writings of Laura and her daughter Rose, as well as the enduring popularity of the Little House series. What do you think about the tragic life of Laura Ingalls Wilder? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you have found this helpful video. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you like it. Thank you for watching this and see you in the next videos. Goodbye.